Did Savannah Chrisley just out herself as a total slob? The reality stars is begging for help. Keep reading to find out what's going on with her. Savannah Chrisley is something of a fashionista. She often shares photos and video snapshots of her outfits. In addition, she has her own makeup line. Sassy by Savannah constantly sells out of popular lip liners and other makeup must-haves. The growing-up Chrisley star gets her business knowledge from her dad Todd Chrisley. But don't tell him that. The two sometimes argue over Todd interfering too much into her brand. Besides being a reality star, Savannah Chrisley could consider herself a social media and pop culture influencer. She clearly dresses the part. Looks can be deceiving. The growing-up Chrisley starlet recently shared a glimpse into her closet. To say the racks of clothes are disorganized would be an understatement. The video posted on her Instagram stories shows her closet overflowing with disheveled clothing. A purse, headphones, and other odds and ends clutter the counter in the closet. After revealing how messy she is, Savannah put out there that she's open to hiring someone to help organize her closet. "Help," she wrote on the video. "Nashville organizers, I need you, haha," Savannah begged. There is speculation that Savannah Chrisley might be living with her former fiancé Nick Curdles. The two confirmed last month that they are giving their relationship another try. The pair ended their one-year engagement in early 2020. However, by November of the same year, they officially called it quits on their relationship. Savannah's messy closet post came hours after she shared a beach-ready selfie on her Instagram stories. Sporting a wide-brimmed hat, the USA Network star flashed a peace sign. She wrote on the photo that she was in the middle of packing, which could explain her later video of her messy closet. However, her mind wasn't on packing. Rather, she joked that she was gonna just pretend I'm on the beach. Savannah didn't reveal why she was packing or where she was going. Can you relate to messy Savannah Chrisley? Should she really hire someone to organize her closet? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't miss new episodes of Chrisley Knows Best and Growing Up Chrisley, Thursdays on the USA Network. Savannah Chrisley has never been one to shy away from the spotlight. From growing up on reality television to building her own beauty empire, she's built a public persona rooted in confidence, poise, and Southern charm. But recently, Savannah pulled back the curtain on a less glamorous truth, one that's rarely seen on Instagram grids or glossy magazine covers. In a refreshingly honest moment, the former Chrisley Knows Best star admitted something many fans found both surprising and deeply relatable. She's messy, not metaphorically, not emotionally, actually messy, the kind of messy that includes dishes piling in the sink, clothes strewn across floors, unopened mail stacked on counters, and half-finished projects lurking in every room. The confession came not in a dramatic televised moment, but in a series of humble social media posts and podcast mentions that caught the attention of followers used to seeing a perfectly curated version of her life. In a world obsessed with perfection, especially from influencers and celebrities, Savannah's vulnerability stood out. She wasn't talking about the occasional clutter after a long week. She was talking about the kind of chaos that creeps up slowly, the kind that builds in layers and soon starts feeling too overwhelming to tackle. And rather than spin it with a quirky caption or bury it under a filter, she owned up to it. Fully, the pressure of perfection growing up on television, Savannah's life was watched, edited, and commented on for most of her formative years. Viewers saw her evolve from a teenager into a successful entrepreneur and media personality, always dressed to impress, always speaking with practiced ease. But off camera, life was more complex. She's openly spoken about the pressures of maintaining a perfect image. Between running her Sassy by Savannah beauty line, hosting her podcast, Unlocked, managing family responsibilities, and weathering personal upheavals, she found herself caught in a cycle of burnout. The chaos at home wasn't just physical. It mirrored the inner mess she didn't have time to face. Friends described her as someone who always tried to keep it together. But behind the scenes, that meant pushing aside dishes to get to her laptop. It meant shoving clutter into a closet before recording a video. It meant telling herself she'd clean up after one more deadline, and then another. Eventually, the mess grew too loud to ignore. The breaking point didn't happen all at once. There was no dramatic meltdown. Instead, the moment came quietly, in the middle of an ordinary morning. Savannah walked into her kitchen, opened the fridge to find spoiled leftovers, and burst into tears, not because of the mess, but because of what it represented, the parts of her life she'd been too exhausted to manage. In her own words, she felt like she was drowning in clutter, both physical and emotional. For someone used to being the helper, the fixer, the one who others relied on, asking for help didn't come naturally. But in that moment, Savannah realized something crucial. She couldn't clean up her life alone. So she did something she never imagined she would do. She begged for help, reaching out in a moment of pure vulnerability. Savannah sent a group text to her closest friends. "I need help. My house is a mess. My brain feels like it's even messier. I can't keep up anymore." What followed wasn't judgment. It wasn't shame. It was support, immediate, unconditional, and deeply healing. Friends came over with coffee, playlists, garbage bags, and zero judgment. Together, they tackled her kitchen, then her bedroom, then her mental to-do list. One friend took her dog for a walk, while another helped sort through unopened mail. They didn't just clean her space, they helped clean her spirit. Savannah would later reflect that it was one of the most humbling and powerful experiences of her life. A shift in perspective, the experience sparked something unexpected. Savannah realized that her worth wasn't tied to how spotless her kitchen was or how organized her closet looked. She didn't need to perform perfection. She needed to practice honesty. She began talking more openly about the hidden struggles behind her social media posts, not for attention, but because she knew she wasn't the only one. She heard from fans, moms, college students, and professionals, all of them sharing their own secret messes. People who looked like they had it all together, but were quietly overwhelmed. Savannah's story wasn't just about dishes or clutter. It was about the impossible standards women, especially public figures, are held to, standards that demand constant poise, hustle, and polish, often at the expense of mental and emotional well-being. She started incorporating these conversations into her podcast, inviting guests to talk about their own messy truths. What emerged was a new theme in her brand, one rooted not just in beauty, but in authenticity, building a better routine. Slowly, of course, no transformation happens overnight. Savannah didn't wake up the next morning with a color-coded closet and a minimalist home. The change came in small steps. She hired a professional organizer, not to impose a Pinterest-perfect system, but to help her find a routine that worked with her lifestyle. She created zones in her home, places where she could breathe and feel calm. She let go of the idea that everything had to be spotless all the time. She also gave herself permission to ask for help before reaching a breaking point. Mental health became a bigger part of her daily conversation. She sought therapy to help her untangle the emotional knots behind the clutter. She practiced saying no to projects she didn't have the bandwidth for. And she embraced the concept of good enough, a revolutionary idea for someone used to chasing perfection. Others through imperfection. Savannah's messy confession struck a chord for a reason. It reminded people that even those who appear to have it all together are still human, still learning, still struggling. In a world that thrives on highlight reels, her raw honesty was a breath of fresh air. Fans started tagging her in their own cleanup projects, using hashtags like #MessyLikeKing and #SavannahSaidClean. They shared before and after photos, not to brag, but to connect. To say, "I'm in this too." The more Savannah leaned into the mess, the more she found herself healing. Her relationship with her home changed. It was no longer a source of shame, but a reflection of her growth. A place in progress, just like her. What comes next? Savannah has hinted at future projects inspired by her experience. Possibly a lifestyle line focused on real, approachable home management, or a book chronicling her journey from chaos to clarity. She's also teased collaborations with mental health advocates and content creators who focus on neurodivergence, ADHD, and executive dysfunction. Topics that deeply resonate with people navigating similar struggles. But for now, she's taking it one step at a time. She doesn't pretend to have it all figured out. She still leaves the dishes sometimes. She still forgets to fold the laundry. But now, she forgives herself quicker. She asks for help sooner. And she's learned that being messy doesn't mean being a failure. It means being human. Final thought: Savannah Chrisley's confession wasn't a PR move. It wasn't a stunt. It was a moment of truth. Raw, unfiltered, and deeply needed in a world of filters and facade. In choosing to show her mess, she helped others feel less alone in theirs.